Iran and Israel are at war, trading more attacks. This video is from earlier in Israel. You see a huge plume of smoke from an Iranian strike. Israel is also ramping up its efforts. President Trump arrived back in the U.S. about 2 hours ago. He cut his trip to Canada for the G7 summit short. The White House said it was, quote, because of what was going on in the Middle East. And on that point, we have a team of correspondents covering every angle of this for you. Ed O'Keefe is at the White House with what the president is up to. Remy Inocencio is digging into the situation in Iran. But let's begin with Debora Patta in Tel Aviv. Debora, good morning to you. I'm wondering how often people are hearing sirens there and what the mood is as we move into a fifth day of this conflict with Iran.
Well, a very good morning to you, Errol. That's right. The fifth day of this new war between Israel and Iran. Those sirens frequently going off both at night and during the day. And just this morning, Israel's air defense system fought off a barrage of at least 30 missiles from Iran. Most were intercepted, but some hit the affluent area of Herzliya outside Tel Aviv. There's been no official comment from the IDF over reports that the Iranian media is saying that they struck a military site and the Mossad operational center in Herzliya. But the IDF has said that they targeted military sites. Now, Israel has also expanded its aerial assaults, striking nuclear facilities and assassinating senior military leaders until now. But then it targeted the regime-controlled media. Last night, it struck Iranian state television during a live broadcast. Thousands of Iranians have been trying to evacuate the city, and the human cost is escalating, as always in war. At least 24 dead in Israel, but that's dwarfed by casualties in Iran, where over 200 people have been killed, including women and children. And you have people in Israel and Iran reeling from the shock of this new front that has opened up.
And
Errol?
meanwhile, Debora, what's happening with the conflict and the humanitarian situation in Gaza?
Well, that's a very good question, Errol. Iran may be the focus, but nothing much has changed in Gaza. A trickle of aid is getting in, but the daily Israeli bombardment continues. And just today, Israeli tank fire, we understand, killed over 50 Palestinians, according to the territory's health ministry. Eyewitnesses say Israeli tanks opened fire on at least a 2,000-strong crowd of desperate Palestinians waiting for food in Khan Yunis. The nearby Nasser hospital wards were crowded with casualties. Some of the wounded were placed on the ground and in the corridors due to a lack of space. The IDF says that the details are under review. That's all they've said at this point. It's the latest incident in what has become an almost daily mass death of Palestinians seeking aid. And of course, let's not forget there are 20 living Israeli hostages still being held in Gaza who have been waiting for over 21 months to return to their loved ones. Errol.
So much happening where you are. Debora Patta in Tel Aviv, just past 2:30 in the afternoon there. Debora, thank you. CBS News senior White House and political correspondent Ed O'Keefe joins us now from the White House. Good morning to you, Ed. So President Trump leaves the G7 early, denies it has anything to do with the potential ceasefire. So what is Mr. Trump's plan and priorities today on this?
Well, he's expected to meet a little later this morning with his top national security advisors here to get a better sense of the situation. He had told reporters part of the reason he wanted to come back was that he wasn't monitoring this remotely from Canada, but could instead do it from here at the White House and in the Situation Room, where everything is a little more real time and there aren't any concerns potentially about, foreign surveillance or just missing something. And he was asked on the flight back, as he was discussing with reporters, concerns about Iran's nuclear capabilities and whether that was part of now what was really driving this, that perhaps the timetable had moved up and Israel's concerns about them being able to develop a weapon much more quickly is what's driving this. Here's part of what he had to say.
You've always said that you don't believe Iran should be able to have a nuclear weapon, but how close do you personally think that they were to getting one? Because Tulsi Gabbard testified in March that the intelligence community said Iran wasn't building a nuclear weapon.
I don't care what she said. I think they were very close to having one.
Now, before he took off from Canada, he had posted on social media that Tehran should evacuate because bad things are coming. It wasn't entirely clear why the president said that. It certainly was an ominous warning ahead of attacks that Israel unleashed on Iran overnight. And we know that there were at least some attempts by people living in that city to leave. But just another signal of how he's monitoring this and suggesting that the situation could get worse for Iran unless they begin negotiating the end of its nuclear agreement and meet with Trump administration officials. One of the other things we're watching for today, Errol, does the president deploy Steve Witkoff, his Mideast envoy, to meet with Iran's foreign minister or other officials? Does the vice president potentially also get involved in those talks? That would certainly escalate the importance of them and the president's push for diplomacy amid Israel's intensifying military campaign.
Yeah, we'll be watching closely, Ed, for developments out of the White House today. Thank you very much. Let's cross over now to CBS News foreign correspondent Remy Inocencio with more on all of this. Remy, what are you learning about the situation in Iran? We heard from Debora Patta that the Israelis have targeted the country's military leadership. So what has changed in Iran?
Sure, Errol. Well, I've been talking to Iranian and Israeli experts, and first off, they tell me that Iran just wasn't expecting this massive scope of Israel strikes, one of the most dramatic ones being this strike on Iranian state TV during a live broadcast yesterday. Take a look. And that massive strike there, and that if the Ayatollah, who is 86 years old and supreme leader since 1989, isn't in deep hiding, well, he should be from all of those strikes. Take a listen to this.
It's focused on the top brass, military infrastructure, the nuclear program, oil and gas depots, and it's ongoing. So I think for them, I imagine Supreme Leader is currently unable to sleep and worried about whether he'll be alive or not.
And that's Iranian expert Holly Dagres at the Washington Institute. She also told me the Ayatollah has to be thinking about Israel taking out its regional proxies in the past, Hamas and Hezbollah and their leaders like Yahya Sinwar and Hassan Nasrallah. But she says that the Ayatollah is really just the top of what she calls a replaceable regime. Here she is again.
The thing with the Islamic Republic is this isn't just one man and some generals. The Islamic Republic has something that's akin to the College of Cardinals, the Assembly of Experts, and they actually determine who gets to be supreme leader.
And that group of experts is made up of 88 clerics. One of them could replace the Ayatollah. It could also be one of the Ayatollah's sons. But let's say if there is regime change, then it doesn't guarantee actually that Iran's next government would be more friendly with the West. It could be Iran's religious regime could be replaced by a military dictatorship. For example, Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps. Errol, basically change doesn't necessarily mean better.
And Remy, Israel can only accomplish so much from the air and without the U.S. getting involved. So what is the Israeli perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. The question is, what is the end game for Netanyahu?
Right.
Has Israel's strikes on Iran's nuclear and missile sites evolved into an opportunity to break the regime? I spoke with former Israeli diplomat Alon Pinkas in Tel Aviv. He says Israel's attacks, all of them, no matter how hard they hit, won't be enough.
These kind of tensions that cause a regime to fall are usually internal, not external. A country of 10 million cannot precipitate a regime change in a country of 90 million, which is 1,800 kilometers away, just 1,100 miles away.
And there is Israeli support for Netanyahu, he says. He told me that there is support, but if it becomes a war of attrition, basically where Israel and Iran keep firing missiles at each other every day for the future, then public opinion there in Israel could change quickly if more Israelis and if more Iranians die on both sides. Errol.
Precarious situation indeed. Remy Inocencio, great insight there. Thanks so much.
You bet.